If I go to a movie, if there's no popcorn, I can't function. I'm serious. That goes hand in hand.
I can't pay attention to this movie. I've got no popcorn.
It's a learned behavior. Movie does not go without a popcorn. That's just the law, And my stomach and my brain says, "What are you doing? Where's the popcorn?" No, I'm serious. We all have learned behaviors.
They say a journey begins in a single step, or in my case, one less piece of bread. My name is Chad, and I'm your test subject. I have sought out an expert in the field of nutrition and fitness who I hoped would help me feel, better. They call him the biohacker, but I call him Eric. I hope you'll join me on a path that leads you and I to optimal fitness as we live our lives in ketosis. This is the Life in Ketosis podcast, a biohacker's guide to optimal body performance. Hello everyone, my name is Chad, and this is my quest to achieving optimal body performance with the man that can get me there, the biohacker himself, Mr. Eric Bischoff. Every episode, Eric gives us his crazy intense, I can fast for 5 days straight, working out even harder than I did when I was eating food, sciencey knowledge, and I break it down with my regular, non-crazy guy take, as we explore the principles of ketogenics and KPR performance training. Whether you're just looking for a way to feel better, or if you're an elite athlete, looking for that edge, we're here to help. And today we're talking about fasting. 3-day fasting. So there's a reason we're talking about it in a 3-day context, but we're going to jump into that. Before we do, how are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
In fact, I am fasting. So
yeah.
So I always feel good when I'm fasting.
That's good to know. We're gonna dive into that a little bit.
Okay.
So talk about let's give a little bit of a general overview of fasting. And one thing I want to point out before we start this conversation is we are going to talk about some science, and a lot of the things that you're talking about are backed by both experience and testing, scientific testing. And so I just want people to know that this is your recommendations around fasting and some of your experience, and we'll talk about autophagy and stuff like that. But there is no hard and fast rules for fasting. And so we get a lot of questions. The reason I bring this up is because we get a lot of questions from listeners and your biofitters that say, am I allowed to do this or I'm allowed to do that? And really we don't want people to look at this as being allowed to do anything or restricted from anything. Fasting is an opportunity, and you'll see a little bit later in the show, we're going to give some comments from actual biofitters that Eric works with and their experience with fasting, which is pretty fascinating. And you'll see that this becomes much more of an opportunity and a way to really connect with yourself and your food and all of that kind of stuff than it is can I, can't I, have to, can't, all of that kind of stuff. Does that ring true?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Cool. So let's talk about. There's a whole lot of discussion going on about fasting right now out there, especially in the keto world. But even more than that, Eric, I've seen people doing Whole30. I've seen people doing paleo, and still talking about fasting. Can you just clarify a little bit here? What are we talking about when we talk about fasting?
Yeah, fasting. I am, and everybody knows from the previous podcast, I am a huge fan of fasting. And there's so many different groups out there that are incorporating the fast, okay? It was usually always associated with ketosis, okay? But now there's other groups that are just doing fasting alone, and they're really even not talking about ketosis, or my favorite, the beta-hydroxybutyrate molecule that's a derivative of ketosis, okay? And like I said, I'm fasting right now, and partially is because I'm kind of forced to. I celebrated a birthday a few days ago, and I scaled out. I do have a twin sister, and she's ketosis, and she said, oh, come on, let's just go to dinner. It's our birthday. And so we scaled out, and I scaled out pretty good. I mean, I did have cake and a bunch of stuff. So I paid the price for it, felt really sick, and I said, I'm fasting 3 days. And so, and a big part of my fast is I have so many biofitters that I coach that are fasting, and I'm a big advocate of the 3-day fast, okay? And there's so many. We've got the 5-2, which is not really a fast. Some will just go 2 days on 500, 600, 700 calories. Then they'll eat normal on the 5 days, which obviously you're not going to be in ketosis, okay? Then there's some that'll go 5 days, 2-day fast, okay? Then you jump into ketosis, and then you jump right back out if you go into a normal, eating regime, just normal nutrition with carbs. And then there's every other day fasting, and then there's intermittent fasting, which really isn't fasting. It's just you're just intermittent eating, kind of. You're getting your 2 meals or 1 meal. I have someone 1 meal a day, 2 meal a days, 5-day fast, 7-day fast. There's a lot of fasting going on out there, and I think it's like anything. You go into it just to do it, and I always call fasting, like you mentioned it's not a sacrifice. It's actually an opportunity. Okay, it's giving you something that you have not received before, okay? And we'll talk about the benefits of fasting.
Yeah.
But no, I'm an advocate of the 3-day fast.
Yeah, I was just going to say, on this episode, we're focusing on the 3-day fast, and we could talk about some of the other types of fasting in the future.
Yes.
Why are we focusing on the 3-day fast?
I've been coaching quite a while, and I've been coaching fasting, and I've done all the different fasts with clients, and I find the 3-day fast the sweet spot. I really do, and I have experience in it with coaching it. All right, and I'm seeing the benefits and what they're obtaining from it and how they feel, and I get the feedback from them, and I coach them right through it from the previous days before and to the refueling of after. So there is a science to it, and I think the procedure that we've developed, I think it's very successful, and for those all the way from body composition changes, aesthetic changes, diabetics, I'm even had just great success from it. And so I kind of have built in my own self-experimentation through myself and others. And like right now, I have probably 5 or 6 doing a 3-day fast this week. Last week I had the same, and the week before just continuously. So I'm always working with fasting.
Yeah.
And I'm becoming more of a big advocate of it because I'm seeing the benefit of it.
Yeah, you were telling me earlier that a lot of your clients are begging to go back onto the fasting.
That's the problem. It becomes addictive, and I'm like, and I say, no, let's back it off, okay, and I have those who do it once a month. Then there's some that have done it. Yeah, they snuck in another one. They just felt so good. And if they have some pretty body composition issues to work with, then that's fine. But if you're real lean, then I'm going to back you off. That's why I like the 3-day fast, even for those with body composition issues, those that are lean, okay, still very beneficial,
Interesting.
Fantastic.
Interesting. So there are some fears in fasting.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that don't want to attempt it because they have some fears. There's also a lot of misinformation about fasting that we're going to clarify a little bit. What are some of the most common fears that you see as people, as you introduce this? I mean, you have the opportunity to introduce the idea of fasting to a lot of different people.
Yes.
And what are you finding? What are some of the biggest fears?
When I talk, I said, okay, I think you're ready for a 3-day fast. And that's a coach's call. I have to see their ketone numbers. I see their blood sugars. I see how disciplined they were in their eating, okay? And that they're in ketosis, because I want them all to go into the fast already previously, really strong, adapted to the ketones for the brain and for muscle and fatty acid, adaptation to the muscles, okay? So they're going to slide right into it, no problem. But they do have fears. They're like, well, I don't know if I can do that 3 days with no food whatsoever, no fat, because they're into fat now, into the macros. And then it's the hunger is one that they're worried about.
Yeah.
And the cravings is number 2. They're really, can I get through the cravings? And am I going to get sick? And am I going to eat up all my muscle tissue?
Yeah.
And that's the one that probably aggravates me the most. But it's a legitimate concern because people have put it out there.
Yeah.
And you've always said you starve, you die, all right? And everybody's got that under their, in their brain locked in. It's a learned, concept that you starve, you die. And we're saying, no, you starve. You live very nicely.
Yeah.
On that stored energy that you have abundance of. I'm not saying because you're overweight. I have abundance of stored energy. Like I said before, 60,000 calories.
Yeah.
So those are some of the fears, and they're easy to overcome. And then after, of course, the fast is done, then it's completely abolished.
Yeah.
And I wish I could do DEXAs and lots of things with people when they're fasting to show them that there isn't a reason to lose lean body mass. You think about it, why would your body eat itself as far as muscle tissue and proteins when it's got all that fat stored energy sitting there to be utilized? That's the purpose of it. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, and that's, and we'll go into autophagy a little bit. So there's, and it's exciting. Fasting is exciting. I find it very, very exciting. And it's fun to coach people through fasting.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about starting, and there's a couple key things that you mentioned that I want to just pull out so to make sure our audience understands, and they might be wondering the same thing, is that one is that most of these people that you're starting fasting, you've been monitoring their macros, you've been monitoring their ketones, you have their biomarkers. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you're looking at as a coach to make that call to tell whether they're a good candidate for fasting or not, and if they're going to have a good experience. So how quickly after people, you want to have some time to watch these things before they jump into fasting. How long does that usually take, or is there even an average?
Some people will jump right in, okay, and I'm pretty careful about that. And everyone's different. It depends on how well they're in ketosis. And the soonest I've had a coach, I've had six weeks maybe after they start, and they haven't been ketogenic before, so they're in nutritional ketosis when we start. And then 6 weeks is where I feel really comfortable with most people getting very fat adapted and ketone adapted, to where it's the mitochondria is taking it in, the brain's taking it in and utilizing it, very efficient. And I watch your ketone numbers. Like I have a gal that started out, she was in the 4s continuously, and she's pretty lean. And I'm like, all right, we got it. This is really high. You're waking up with 4 millimoles in the morning, and no exogenous. It's all endogenous, okay? So I'm like, all right, we got to tweak this. So I kept tweaking, working her workouts different, just made changes, and now she's consistently 1.5 to 2 point something. So she just ended a fast a week ago. So I said, okay, you can fast. Because if she's already at 4 or 5, and I throw her into a fast, then of course, you know, your millimoles of ketones are going to jump. You're going to get your highest when you're fasting, and you're calorie restricted, obviously. So those fatty acids are going to pour into the liver and really produce some ketones. But I need her to utilize them. I don't want to run her up to 7, 8, 9 millimole. And so those are the things you look for. And I said, okay, you're ready. And some want to go earlier because it's kind of going out there. I want to drop these pounds fast. And fasting, of course, you will lose weight. Yeah. There's no ifs, ands, or buts there. Okay. And some people, they get in a stall. We all know the stall. And usually I'll use a 3-day fast to break them through a stall. And then do a reset and get that autophagy going and get those cells to start communicating better and start working better and get rid of all the dead cells and go through the autophagy process. And it makes it great for a reset. It really does.
One thing that's interesting, Eric, is if you talk to any guru, professional, anything like that about fasting, each of them is going to have a different opinion as to what a fast is. Yes. So let's set our baseline, if that's okay for our listeners. What is a fast for you in this 3-day context?
You need fasting is for it's calorie restriction. Okay. So we're trying to accomplish something, right? You're not going in, I hate to use that word starvation, but you're not going into that mode just willy-nilly, all right? Some are just saying, I just want to lose weight. I don't care. Aesthetics, just drop off some pounds. But there's a purpose for a fast, and my purpose is there is body composition changes, okay? Fat loss. But also I want the autophagy, all right? And you can't just go into a fast unless you plan for that autophagy. And we've talked about before, the autophagy is what we're doing is regenerating and breaking down your cellular components. They're just, you have unfolded proteins, you have organelles that aren't working properly, you have dysfunctional mitochondria, okay? And it's great to get into the mitochondrial function of it to regenerate that. So what we're doing is we have to say we're going into catabolic state, which means we don't want to be anabolic. So we're tearing down. And what people don't understand a lot, there's fasting out there, and you read all the time, they recommend bone broth. All right. Well, you're not going to get autophagy if you're going to drink bone broth, because you're drinking amino acids. Amino acids obviously are a promoter of the mTOR pathway that we've talked about. That's the growth pathway. We don't want mTOR, right? We want to break down. We're not in growth mode. But however, in a fast, you will have some growth due to your growth hormone will increase, okay? And so that's the purpose when I teach a fast. I want to coordinate it to where you're going to get autophagy. You might as well. That's what makes you feel good, all right? Besides, all the other benefits. I can list them real quick off my head. Insulin sensitivity, okay? Anti-inflammatory, better metabolism. You're going to get a better mood. You're going to be a reduction of your stress, your reaction to oxygen species, your free radicals, your cognitive increases. And you've been through all this. Your BDNF, we've talked about, will increase. You lower your glucose. Your adrenaline picks up. The list goes on and on from this fast. But the big is a lot of this is a derivative of autophagy. Okay, the actual regeneration of those cellular components. Okay, and like I did my 5-day fast, and I teach others. I lost no muscle tissue whatsoever, and that's a big fear. That I'm losing, but we've been down this before. You are not going to utilize your proteins as an energy source when you're utilizing your fat stores. I work out, and I teach it through all my fasting. You're working out. You're not sitting around like, oh, I'm not eating, I'm going to be tired and lethargic. Oh, no, your workouts are happening. And you'd be surprised at the energy levels that people, in just in 3 days, that they're experiencing.
Yeah, that's incredible. So I just want to make sure we loop back so we don't lose this. When I asked about the baseline, I'm wondering if you can give our listeners an idea of what this fasting looks like day to day. Like,
what do you miss that?
Yeah, you went into benefits, you went into autophagy, and it's awesome. That's all great information. But I do want to make sure that people aren't questioning how this looks day to day. What am I actually putting into my body? What am I not putting into my body? And that sort of thing.
Very good. My apology. Okay.
No problem.
Very good. Yeah, and that's it. A 3-day fast. All right. We're gonna like Chad said. You're gonna be prepped into it because you're already in ketosis. All right.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna suffer that glucose not getting to the brain. All right. Because the brain said, hey, I'm good. I don't need it. I got ketones. All right. I got the beta. I'm flowing. All right. So the first, you just eat normal the day before. There's no like carbo loading or getting a little extra glycogen in there. Nope. You're ketosis. Just eat your normal day. And I have everybody start at the evening and just what I like, okay? And I'm the coach. And so after their dinner, all right, they start their fast because you get that first, 12, 14 hours out of the way on sleeping, okay? Yeah. So in your fast, day 1, we are a water fast, okay? We're not any calories whatsoever, all right? And of course, no amino acids, no fat, all right? So I'm restricting all your calories, all right? So you have the water. Now, coffee, that's fine. You can have coffee. There is some that don't like the sweeteners, but I'm okay with stevia, okay? There's some that, you can't have any sweeteners whatsoever, but they'll give you bone broth, and then it knocks you out of autophagy anyway. And I've even allowed, there's some, just to get them through it, they fasted with Diet Coke. The caffeine, of course, will promote a little more fat metabolizing, so you'll burn a little more fat with some caffeine, and caffeine kind of gives you a little pick-me-up through the day. So water, you can put a little lemon flavor in it maybe, or, whatever you need, but it's the flavoring that'll kick off your insulin, okay? So you think about it, I'm trying to keep you away from anything flavorful. So, we have learned behaviors, right? So you think about anytime you think of food, like Pavlov's law, if I was to eat a lemon in front of you, what's your reaction?
Salivate.
You're going to salivate, okay? So what is salivate? You're initiating a response. So your pancreas can initiate a insulin response.
My metabolism's already kicking in.
It's already kicking in. You can have that pancreatic lipase already in the stomach because that's how the body prepares itself, okay? So we have to avoid those things. They're going to kick off your learned behaviors. It's like me. We all have learned behaviors, okay, of eating and snacking. If I go to a movie, if there's no popcorn, I can't function. I'm serious. That goes hand in hand.
I can't pay attention to this movie. I've got no popcorn.
It's a learned behavior. Movie does not go without a popcorn. That's just the law, And my stomach and my brain says, "What are you doing? Where's the popcorn?" No, I'm serious. We all have learned behaviors.
The previews before don't do you any good either because you see that butter drizzled over the popcorn and you're like, I gotta give me some of that.
And we all have this. So if you go in, you're fasting, you go into a bakery or into a supermarket and you smell those smells. There's a reaction. It's a learned behavior. But fasting breaks those. And that's what's exciting about fasting. You break those learned behaviors because you're going 3 days. And sooner or later, the brain will let go of that learned behavior to where your association with that food always initiates a reaction. But sooner or later, when you do it enough, and you've been ketosis, you don't have that reaction anymore to certain foods and smells. And so it takes some time. And that's what I like about fasting. We're going to break a lot of that learned behavior. And so that's a big perk. It really is. And then there's that day one, we have water. You can have coffee, and you can drink, we probably drink up to 2 liters a day of fluid, but we're real big on supplements. You've got to have your magnesium, your potassium, your sodium. I do a multivitamin, have them do a multivitamin. So we make sure your supplements are there for the electrolytes because that's very critical when you're fasting. Okay? And stay busy. Number one, of course, and I always make sure most of the people do not do weekend fasts. They're working 8 hours a day. They're keeping busy, or they have their kids to take care of all day.
Interesting.
So a lot of people like, for some reason, Tuesday night because they end Friday night, okay? And that's a popular 3-day window for people. So I always say choose your best 3 days that you think is going to be less stress, but you're going to stay busy, okay? And you're not going to be prepping food for the family. And it's hard because, I have the women that have kids, and a lot of them, I say get your husband to make the meals if you can. All right? So I got you out of the kitchen just to make it easier, okay? And so we're always looking for ways to make that first 3-day fast easier. And so it's water only, and you can just do some of the sweeteners. I've done stevia drops in my water, and I've actually I know people get mad at me, but the chicken bouillon, I know there's like Knorr's brand. It's got some preservatives, but there's no calories to it. There is a good sodium, 700 milligrams that you've got to keep up. So I actually advocate that for some people, and even myself. I'll drink that in the morning. It kind of makes you think like you're having soup a little bit. So it's a mental thing.
Well, this is cool. You've gathered some reactions from some of your biofitters, to their fasts, and you got permission to kind of share some of these comments about what people are experiencing while they're fasting, which I think is amazing because, really, I mean, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is what real life people are experiencing as they jump into this 3-day fast while in ketosis. So do you want to kind of just mention some of those and talk about some of the comments you've gotten?
And I asked for their comments, and these are coming from them. And I said I wouldn't use their names, but they probably wouldn't care if I did or not. But I have so many. But I got like tons in one. I think people would pay millions to get the energy and mental clarity experienced after a fast. And what is phenomenal is that water costs nothing. Okay?
It is an added benefit.
It is. And this gal's from Qatar. Okay, we're far across, and she also stated, I don't want this feeling to end. Okay, and then others, feeling good, no hunger, no cravings, cognitive intact. Day 2 started workout a little sluggish, but energy kicked in, feeling good all night. Another one, glucose 63 this morning and ran 10.5 miles. Still feeling lots of energy and clear thinking. That was on day 3. And then this was on day 3. She said, fasting gave me a real sense of gratitude and happiness. It's amazing. I really didn't think I could do it. I feel so cleaned out. Strong connection with body, mind, and spirit. Another one, I feel great. I'm not hungry. My workout went great. I could have done a lot more than the workout you gave me. Another, I feel so good. No stomach bloat or gas. That's a popular one.
Yeah.
My friends think I'm crazy, but I can't wait to do this again. This could be addicting. Another one, I think I want to fast every other week. I feel so good. Day 2 was only a hard day, but now day 3, I really feel so good. I want to go 5 days. Is that okay, Eric? So, I lost no strength. In fact, I feel really strong. How can that be? Is it normal to dream about food? I am not hungry, but I am dreaming about it. And the other one, I have brain power. I don't want it to stop, please. So these are just some, and I get it. All that I really enjoy it, and sure, day 1 sometimes there's some struggle because it's a mental thing because you're used to the cravings, that learned behavior kicks in, and then I always say just hang on. But I think the hardest thing I have now is slowing them down because they want to go 5 days, they want to go 6, they want to go every other week into a 3-day fast. I have one in New York. He knows what I'm talking about. He's I call him the master faster. I have in Los Angeles down there, Orange, a big faster, 5 days, 6 days. He's done a few of them and loves them. Yeah. And he's written some really great experiences about it. So.
This is so different than what you would expect, right? As a coach, well, not what you would expect because you know the science and the experience of it because you've experienced yourself. But what I would expect if I were a coach and I was putting people on multi-day fasts, I would expect to be getting texts and emails and messages like, what the hell have you done to me? What is going on? I'm so hungry. I need food. I feel lethargic. I feel no energy. This is the worst thing ever. Because I've done cleanses. I've done juice cleanses. I've done, a few other things. And I'll tell you what, I'll never do them again. They were the worst experience ever. So this is incredible that people are having this kind of experience with fasting and experiencing something that they've never experienced before. I love the one you read first. Actually, I think it was the second one you read about the gratitude and that it gave them more gratitude for, I'm guessing, just life in general. Yeah,
she really connected. In fact, she actually... I spoke with her, and she actually was emotional. And others talk about that, I'm really cognitive, and some are very prayerful people, or even in meditation. Yeah. And it seemed like they reached that extra level. Mm-hmm. And even when you go 4 or 5, and I found out on the 5th day, you really get euphoric. And remember, your adrenaline's going. You've got a lot of energy pumping, and you're like, wait, how come I feel so good? And those that are working, they just stay focused. And I would love people to go 5 days to really experience the euphoric, but some get it on the 3rd day. They start getting very euphoric. Huh. And some, there is a few headaches along the way. People get a headache. I say, increase your sodium a little bit. Yeah. There's some that say, my stomach's growling. I said, don't worry, you'll get through it. Usually the first day, like her dreaming about food. I think that was her first night or second night, but she's, that was gone, But, and some of you even said, like I've said before, you feel, and a lot of, I've heard a lot of them don't tell their friends, and the reason being is they're like, oh, you're crazy, why would you do this to your body? And I don't mind. If I'm fasting, I'd be happy to share it and then share the reasons why. But most of mine, the BioFitters, I send them a whole pre-workout, a pre-fast, where they understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and the benefits. And I think they read it. No, I'm always talking about it. So they're probably like, oh, Eric, you said this a million times to us. Yeah. But anyway, knowledge is important on that. And you have a purpose and a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about how to get in to the fast. Talked about what we can do while we're fasting.
Yep.
So let's talk about how do we come back out? How do we get our body back into utilizing the fuel that we're putting into it?
Good question. Really good question, because the refueling is very important. Okay?
And let me say this really quick too. Yeah. I hear people all the time. You're BioFitters. You and I have had this conversation. Mm-hmm. What are you gonna break your fast with?
Exactly.
Everybody's looking to that meal. What am I gonna break this fast with?
And a lot of people do fast for religious purposes, and a lot of them will just think about what they're going to eat at the end of this fast. And I used to do that. Like, I can't wait. I got this pork or whatever's waiting at home.
Yeah.
You rush home and just, annihilate it. But no, we don't do that in ending our fast. Refueling is very important. Because remember, we have taken our insulin out of the game. And that's the reason we fast, is to drop that insulin, okay? And so when that insulin gets low, we're keeping it flatline. It's low, okay? Remember, we got glucagon in there doing the work now, okay? So anytime now you go into refeeding mode, we don't want that insulin's going to spike. If you're going to carb up and just say, I'm going for it, okay? I deserve this. But when you end up fast, you're really not that hungry. Most of the ones I coach and myself, you're really not hungry. You're like, I go another day. And it's kind of funny. But so in refueling, you don't want to drive that insulin up, because we've got an electrolyte issue that we've got to keep balanced, because you're balancing it during your fast. Then all of a sudden you shove that insulin up, and you don't want to be shoving electrolytes in hardcore into the cells and leaving your blood plasma dry of electrolytes. Then you're going to have issues. So we got to keep it balanced, and you don't want to spike that. So bring in the carbs real slow. I recommend a little bit. Avocado is always one I recommend. Like a half avocado, a little bit of spinach, just a small salad is what I broke into. Nothing big and fancy. I have some just have one piece of bacon. They do fine with it. And they just initiate the carbs slowly. So you're going to get some carbs from your avocado and your spinach. And then usually what I find with most of the BioFitters, that first meal is pretty conservative, like my instruction. And then I look at their macros for the next meal. Wow. They went back. They're like, I'm back. Nothing bad, but it's a full meal. You know, and they all feel good. Yeah, if you feel good, you can bounce back. The second meal, then I have no problem with that. Yeah, and I bounce back real quick. But I don't have and sometimes there is that post fasting kind of letdown. Just like after a race or anything you accomplish, there's always that little letdown because it's gone. Yeah. And I tell people, and I need to tell them more, that you'll get over that little post-depression. It's just kind of like, this sucks. And then you want that feeling back, and what's that say? Okay, I'm going to fast again. Yeah. So there is definitely that on some people. Yeah.
And anything with that, it's important for us to remember, well, it's important for me to remember, and I would recommend it for other people, is we can't feel those high euphoric feelings on those things all the time, or they would become the norm. Right?
I've been running how many years now in training, and I've only had the runner's high twice. Yeah. I think I would have quit by now if I was just doing it for that. 30 years for what? Two highs?
Yeah. So enjoy them when we're there, and be in the moment when we're there, and then realize that we can't have that all the time, or it would become the norm, and it wouldn't be a high.
And your fasting gets better because you become, remember, I'm the guy all about adaptation. All right? Your body becomes adapted to that. The brain says, hey, I've been here before. The cells say, hey, I've been here before. Everything's been there before. And let's make it work better. Okay? And you're going to get faster at regenerating these cells. And, remember, one good thing about it is I like it because of the autophagy, but it also can purge out any precancerous cells that you might be. Everybody has them, okay? Especially the 5-day, 7-day, you're going to limit that glucose uptake into those cells, and it's like a purge, and I like that, as a backup, and I can go into that deeper, and we should do a podcast on metabolic issues with cancer. And so, but no, there's so much therapeutic by fasting.
Yeah, this has been great. This has been fascinating.
Well, I hope I can get people excited about a 3-day fast. Maybe we should hold a 3-day fast for all the listeners, and we'll coach them right through it.
For the life in ketosis.
Yeah, we'll start with it, and we'll coach them right through it.
That would be fun.
Everybody do a 3-day fast, and we'll get you through it and see what you think.
What would be fun is to release an episode every day, like do it all together and release an episode every day.
And get their comments and how they're feeling, and their feedback. And as long as you test, I'm you know me, I'm a biomarker, so I like to see your glucose and your ketones. In fact, I have a type 1 diabetic just starting, and so I'm all over his ketones, but coaching, and it's, You just need. I feel safe when I can see your blood markers.
Yeah.
Then
Yep.
I know you're okay.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for biohacking with us
thanks.
today. And I want to thank you for joining us on this quest for optimal fitness. If you're ready to begin your own journey and live your life in ketosis, be sure to check out biofitcoaching.com or BioFit Coaching on Facebook. Also, if this podcast has helped you in any way, we encourage you to consider going on iTunes and leaving us a review and a 5-star rating. That really helps our reputation as a podcast and be found in search engines and help more people ultimately. That's the goal here. And until next time, stay keto.